This meeting is being recorded.
So welcome to the Virtual Cheese Awards 2022, showcasing the best of British cheeses. I am Helen Blair from Good Sense Research and I'll be moderating the session today. This session is the washed rind cheese. And now I'd like to introduce you to our two judges. Chris, firstly, would you like to say a few words?
Hello, my name is Chris Dawson. I'm the senior cheese buyer at Marks and Spencer's. I've been buying cheese since 2003, and I have travelled extensively across the UK and Europe looking for the very best cheeses that money can buy. I've done a lot of judging over the years, and I'm greatly looking forward to this class and see if we can find a real top winner in the wash rind class.
And Hero?
Hi there, I'm Hero Hirsch. I am the head of retail at Paxton and Whitfield. I've been there since 2009. I've done quite a lot of cheese judging before, but this is my first time judging the Virtual Cheese Awards. And yeah, like Chris, I'm very excited to try some washed rind cheeses.
So the judges will use a point system for judging, scoring against 5 key attributes, and the winner will be the one that scores the most points and go forward to the best of category stage. And the attributes that we're scoring against on a 10-point scale are appearance, aroma, texture, true to character and flavour. So should we start with the first cheese? That's E21010.
This is a very well-made looking cheese, very even in colour. It's beautifully made. It's almost like a work of art. It looks almost like a taleggio, but a mini version of a taleggio, just without the colour. It's a sort of ivory colour. So yeah, in terms of appearance, I think it looks really good.
Yep, absolutely, totally even, nice, kind of like you can tell it's a washed rind. It sort of looks nice and sticky, but not overly, yeah, just very even.
In terms of scores, I'm thinking, 8.5.
Yeah, I'd say it's a pretty high score for appearance, and 8.5 sounds good to me.
Aroma?
It's got that classic yeasty note, yeasty, winey.
Yeah.
It really, it's getting those taste buds going. Just from the aroma, you almost know it's, hoping it's going to taste really rich and beautifully complex.
Yeah, I mean, if I didn't know that these were all British cheeses, I would be convinced it was French from the smell.
So I think in terms of aroma, I would score it highly, either 8.5 or 9. I think it's...
Yeah, I think an 8.5 sounds good. Texture wise, I was expecting probably something a little bit softer on the inside. The rind does seem nice and delicate, though. It does seem to have a very kind of thin, delicate looking rind, but I have to say that the center is a lot firmer than I was expecting, just from the outside appearance of this cheese and from the style.
I think, yes, I would agree with you here. I think it's quite a young specimen. It could do with another couple of weeks age. The rind is beautifully thin.
It is beautifully thin. It's a little, mine's actually sort of peeling off.
Oh yeah, no, I've got the same now you mention it.
Yeah, it's a little unusual that it's not adhering to the cheese a bit better.
I think for me, because it's quite young, it's quite curvy in the middle, I would tend to take some points away, because I think we were hoping for a little bit more ripeness coming through in the cheese.
Yeah, for something a little bit gooier, won't we? So should we go for a 6? Oh, 6.5?
Yep, 6.5, go with that. And then in terms of flavour, I'm a bit disappointed by it. it promises a lot more than it's delivering, and there's a slight.
What was, sorry, can you just tell me the texture score again?
Texture was 6.5.
Right.
6.5. I've
What
got
we
a
saying on
slight
flavour,
a
sorry?
sour. I've got a sour acidity
Yeah,
coming through,
there
which
is.
isn't really attractive. It's not what I was hoping for.
It's, to me, it's very much like a sort of like if you poured Marmite onto creme fraiche. It's sort of quite sour, quite bright, but also very kind of savory and salty at the same time. I feel that it's the youth of this cheese is what's really kind of holding it back from being out and out what I'd expect, that kind of umami savoriness. And I want a slightly more, the texture to be a bit more clotted cream rather than sort of solid.
Yes, I do wonder, even if it matures, whether that sour acidity will continue through life. I'm just not sure that.
I think the acidity is coming from how young the cheese is, but we can only, I would like to see it a little bit more aged, but I can only really, I guess, judge on what's in front of me right at this moment, which to me, it feels a little bit like it's not totally cohesive in terms of flavor. Like it's a bit bumpy still.
Yes. So we say 6.5?
6.5, but I would love to see it a little bit more aged with a little bit more kind of breakdown. So it's a little bit more, because I mean, it definitely has the potential to be like an époisse almost, doesn't it? But it's just,
yeah, I think it's got great potential. I think it's got great potential. I think it's a very good cheesemaker who's making this. I just think on the day, it's just young, and there's just a couple of those off flavors which aren't working at this age.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So true to character, what did we go to a flavor? Did we go 6.5 or 6?
6.5. I think in terms of true to character, 7.
Yeah, I think, you know, flavor wise, it's fair to go a little bit lower than true to character, because the character will develop, and I'd love to see it a little bit more aged.
Next one in this one is E21073.
Yes, and again, we've got a half cheese here from Around. It's a beautiful color,
Isn't it?
a very light orange, beautiful, you know, lovely even coloring across the cheese. It looks very well made and very well matured and controlled. You know, for me, it's a high score in terms of appearance. I would
agree. Yeah, lovely peachy color, kind of evenness. If I was being very finicky, I'd say that mine's got a little bit of a slope to it, which to me, it's still a very high score. I'd still be happy to see it with an 8.5 or a 9 even.
I'm going 9. I think it's
9?
Such a good looking cheese.
Let's go 9.
The last one was 8.5. So
I think that's, yeah, I'm happy with
9.
that.
Okay, and on to Aroma.
Ooh, wow.
Strong,
definitely
pungent.
punchy.
You know, the aroma promises a lot.
There is quite a lot of ammonia, but
that may, that may undermine it when we come to taste it.
potentially, although a lot of these cheeses, the smell is substantially stronger than the flavour. What are you thinking on aroma? Sorry, Helen, what did we go for aroma on the first one? We went quite high, didn't we?
8.5. So
I don't think this is promising quite as much on aroma as the last one did, that we gave 8.5 to.
Probably 7.5.
I think, yeah, I think that's probably about right. Then texture wise, we have some breakdown, not total. I still have a fine core here, but it does seem to be breaking down nicely and fairly evenly around the core. It's not coming away from the rind, and the rind looks very, very delicate.
Yes, I'd agree. The rind is very, very delicate, almost like you said previously, you painted it on.
Yeah.
You know, it is so thin. I've got a tiny, tiny core in the middle, but, you know, predominantly it's creamy in terms of its appearance. So I would be tempted to give this an 8.
Yeah, I'm very happy with an 8 for texture.
For me, the flavour is very pleasant, but I'm not getting wow factor. It's just a very pleasant eating cheese. It's got some complexity, but you'd hope for more from this style of cheese.
I think you can tell that it's really, really delicious milk that's gone into it. The salting, I think, is nice. It's, you know, the fact that it's still got this unripened core is bringing a lot of kind of brightness to it. So as you say, it is pleasant. I'm not wowed by it, but it is very, very nice.
7.5 on flavour? Or is that too high?
It feels a little bit high compared to some of the scores we've been giving today. But I guess if we're consistent across this class, then I might go a little bit lower.
Okay, we gave the last cheese 6.5. So if we went 7 for this?
Yeah, I think it is better than the one that we gave 6.5 to.
True to character?
I think when you look at the scores, I think you end up giving this a 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, very happy with that.
And the next one's E21113.
Very sweet looking little cheese. Clearly has like in the longer style where they don't turn it and they kind of let it develop this kind of divot on top. The rind looks really nice and wrinkly with a very kind of even coloration across it. So I think appearance wise, I would go fairly high for this. Would you say, Chris? Sorry, have you had a chance to look at yours?
Yeah, no, I was expecting it to come in a little white doily inside, and
Right.
Of course it doesn't, or not at the moment. I think you're absolutely right. It does remind me of a long, although this one's slightly more richer ivory colour than the long, which tends to be more orangey, peachy. Yeah, it looks a nice cheese. I think it's more for an educated palate, in a sense that for a lot of customers, it may be a little bit frightening for them.
Yeah, it looks funky. I mean, if you are, as you say, a customer who's, you know, shopping in places that they sell Langres, you'll be very accustomed to seeing something that looks like that on the counter, but it could be terrifying if you haven't. For me personally, I'm very excited to try this cheese, and I would go quite highly. I wouldn't want to detract from it just because from unfamiliarity.
So no, I think that's absolutely fair. I think 8.
Yeah, I'd say if what do we go for on the first one? Did we go 8.5?
Yeah,
We did
8.5.
8.5 for the first one,
and then 9 for the second one.
For me,
Okay.
this is slightly just, I think it's lost some of its body. It's just sunken a little bit, maybe
Yeah, I
too
think
much.
yours looks quite a different shape to mine, actually, because mine's really quite upright still.
Yes,
And yours,
I was going to say yours looks very different, Chris.
yes, mine's,
Can I just double check that it is E21113?
yeah, it's the only one that came in.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
This is-
No,
it's
I just wanted to double check this.
no, it's the right cheese. It's just you know, when before I started taking the box apart, it had sunken already within the box.
Right.
I think we might have a
So,
very different batch, so we'll do. I guess we'll do our best. But in terms of appearance, I mean, mine is.
Yeah, no, that
pretty
that
faultless.
looks for me classic long
Yeah.
style, with the sunken middle. 8.5.
Yeah, I think 8.5. And then, oh, aroma wise. All sorts of funkiness here. Quite meaty.
Yeah, it's certainly intense.
It's almost like a
meaty,
sort of
it's richer.
smoky. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, slightly smoky. 8.5 on the nose.
Yeah, okay. Texture wise, and I guess we should be aware that we might have different batches potentially in front of us, but that is, if it were longer, the exact texture I would be looking for, if it were that kind of which obviously it won't be.
Mine
Nice
is very
breakdown, creamy core.
Mine is very, very gooey.
Oh,
I
is
think
it?
I've got a very, very ripe sample here, which there's nothing wrong with that if it delivers.
Yeah.
But
Because for me, texture wise, I would be going for a pretty high score on this, because I do think it's kind of perfectly aged, but I think we'll probably need to compromise between the two samples that we have in front of us. So, I mean, if I were to be going quite high, like an 8.5 for texture, where would you go? And then we can sort of.
I would be, tops for me would be 7.5. Because
Okay, so if we went for an 8 as a compromise.
Yeah, mine's just completely collapsed.
Oh, that's a shame.
But it's it's got a really interesting flavour.
Yeah, it's great,
salty,
isn't it?
It's salty, it's yeasty, it's rich, it's complex. There's a lot going on in here. It's
I think that's pretty wonderful, actually. I think it's a real shame if your sample doesn't have very much of the core, because I think the balance between the kind of bright acidity I'm getting from the core and the gooey breakdown is really part of the charm. That kind of the two.
I'd say mine is slightly gone past its best from its flavour.
Yeah.
I think you can see that probably from the way it's just fallen apart on the board. And I'm getting a lot of salt on the back, probably slightly out of balance salt for me. But some lovely flavours in there. I think it's a great potential, this cheese. I'd be fascinated to know.
I wish you had mine.
Yeah,
I wish I could give you the other half of mine, because this is, I mean, for me, this is kind of winning the class so far. The salt is not, overly dominant yet. The balance between the core and the breakdown is perfect. So I think that is a real pity that we haven't got kind of exactly the same thing on our plates by the sounds of it. Are we on flavour?
For flavour, yeah.
Yes, on flavour.
Based on what I have, I would go a 9.
Okay.
But I think
you go for.
we need to?
I think as a balance, I would go 8.5, just based on what I've seen here. Obviously, I would probably score mine lower than that, based on what I have, but I'm happy to go for a relatively high score, thinking that you've got the better of the two samples.
I go 8.5.
8.5.
Okay. And true to character.
Certainly for a cheese in this style, I think it's really delivering. I'd go an 8.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think.
And the next one is E21220.
Very different looking cheese this to the last.
Yes, very different indeed.
I think it's very attractive though. Nice bright colour, probably a goat's milk, I think. The rind has got some really interesting kind of looking moulds on it, which I think I look quite sort of, which I'm quite intrigued by. The aging on it looks very even as well. It doesn't have a sort of strong kind of shadow under the rind. It just looks like a nicely aged, well-made bit of cheese.
No, I'd agree. It's a very well made cheese. You know, I think some of the colouring on the rind is a bit funky, and you know, yeah, I think I would be happy to give that an 8.5 for appearance.
Yep, me too.
I think on the nose, you've got real sweetness there coming through on the aroma.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get rid of the last cheese. Oh yeah, definitely. There's something almost caramelly about the smell, isn't it? But savoury at the same time. Yeah, I think aroma is very, very nice. I'm not getting.
I would probably give that an 8.
Yeah,
for
8
aroma.
sounds perfect.
Texture wise, it feels on the young side in terms of it probably is one of those cheeses that could age for longer. But that's not to say that it won't be absolutely delicious, because there's nothing wrong with a young cheese like this.
Yeah, it's got a nice sort of springy texture, doesn't it?
Springy and rubbery, yeah. Quite high moisture. I think in terms of texture, 7.5.
Yep, I'm happy with that.
And then in terms of flavour, I think it's got a beautiful sweetness coming through. Very clean, very rounded, quite Moorish.
Very Moorish. Lovely and savoury. No, I agree. The sort of sweet savoury balance is really, really good on this. Just nice. And the goat milk is so gentle, isn't it? The sort of very gentle goatiness. You could easily serve that to someone who doesn't like goat's cheese.
It's a very well made cheese, and flavour wise, a good 8, I would say.
I'd be tempted to go a little bit higher even, although I don't know where that puts us in.
The previous one was 8. The previous one was 8.5, and the others scored below that. So if it at 8, it would.
Yeah, I think
second in terms of
it is.
flavour.
It's around the 8.5. It doesn't. necessarily
I
have the
don't think it
complexity
has
of
the-
the one we gave
no.
it 8.5.
Exactly. I was just thinking that it's a really nice cheese at this age. I think I would love to see it aged a little bit longer to
Mhm.
see how the complexity would develop. But I think 8 is a very good score for this cheese.
Yeah.
True to character.
Yeah, I think overall, the true to character, it is a 7.5, perhaps.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So the final one is E21228.
Okay. Appearance wise, got a lovely golden paste on this and a really nice sort of, again, very delicate looking rind. One of the sort of firmer styles of washed rind cheese is this. So a few little eyes through the paste, but you know, very sort of even and quite small. So yeah, I think appearance, it looks like a very nice, very nice.
For me, I echo Hero's comments there. Nice peachy colour on the rind, a nice thin rind, a golden curd 8, I would say, for this.
Yep, I'm happy with that. And then aroma.
I'm certainly picking up damp cellars.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, certainly on the rind, it's
and some sweetness and some richness coming from the cheese itself.
it's not, it's probably one of the least pungent of the washed rinds that we've had today.
Yes, I think that's partly because of it's a semi-hard style cheese.
Yeah. All of those aromas coming from the rind, really, and that there's different patches of different things. It's quite fascinating to smell. But what do you think we should be on marks out of 10 for aroma? Because I guess it's not for a washed rind. It's kind of it's quite restrained in terms of aroma, but it's not unpleasant.
I would say a 7.
Okay.
Because we gave the first one 7.5, and I think the first one certainly had more pungency and attitude about it. This is probably the most subdued of the samples that we've seen from an aroma perspective.
Yeah.
What was the aroma score?
7. And then texture wise, again, very, very springy.
Mm.
It's kind of got like a raclette type of texture, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah, raclette would be a good comparison.
And I think if it were that style of cheese, then texture is going to be, I mean, it's kind of neither here nor there what we want it to be. It needs to have a specific texture if it is that style of cheese, doesn't it? That springiness.
I think a 7.5 for texture. I wouldn't go higher or lower.
No, because I don't have any issues with the texture, so.
And the flavour?
A lot more going on than I expected there to be, actually. There's something almost sort of like a allium or something garlicky almost in there.
Yeah, there's definitely.
You have that. I was worried it was something on my board for a moment.
No, it's definitely some sort of wild garlic notes coming through or something like that.
I wonder how intentional that is, because it doesn't look like a kind of It could
Well,
just
I
be-
had an experience many years ago eating Keen's unpasteurized cheddar, and I have this amazing flavour complexity, and I couldn't think what it was, and then eventually it came to me, wild garlic. And so obviously a year before, the cows had been in the hedgerows and had eaten wild garlic, and it had just come straight through the milk.
Mm.
Now, I'm not saying the cows have here, but
It is quite a wild garlic-like flavour, though, isn't it, or something chivy?
and it's not unpleasant. It is
No.
chives, wild garlic. It actually adds, I think, to the flavour.
Yes, although I'm finding it a little distracting.
If anything,
I'm
it's
glad
probably
that you have it in your sample too, and it's not just I have it just sort of badly wiped down.
if anything, it's slightly taking away from the wash rind note of it. It's
I think that's the thing, that I'm eating this cheese, I'm looking for something meaty, and I'm getting something quite vegetable-y.
I think in terms of flavour, I've scored it as a 7.5. I think it's got some lovely flavours, but would I say it's a classic wash rind cheese in terms of its flavour delivery? Probably not as much as some of the others that we've seen.
Yeah, agreed. I'm happy with that.
And then I think overall, in terms of treaty type, it's around the 7.5.
Yeah,
I think it's
agreed.
it's a very well made cheese. It's a really nice cheese to eat. I think the cheesemaker should be really pleased with the result.
Yeah.
So that was a really high scoring round, but there is one cheese that came out at least 2 points ahead, and that was E21113. That was the third cheese.
The third
The one where we had quite different samples.
Yeah. I'm happy with that because I think my sample was slightly atypical, but I could see real potential in it.
Yeah, I'm happy with it. I thought it was the best one.
Okay, so that's E21113, which is winner for the wash rind cheese. We would like to thank our sponsors for the judges packs, South Carnarvon Creameries and Butler's Farmhouse Cheeses for our aprons. We're looking forward to the live event on Friday the 13th of May, judging the best of the classes in categories. Best English, Irish, Welsh and Scottish cheeses, along with the awards that recognise the talented and passionate people within the industry. The day will culminate with the award of our Supreme Champion for 2022. Thank you very much.